For this lesson, this is going to be titled Stress and Stress Relief. And this lesson is going to require the students to have a little bit more of a background in biology. For this one, we're going to cover a little bit more advanced topics than the previous lesson. So this one's going to be designed for high school health, 9th through 12th grade. Should be able to fit any high school grade level as long as they're either in biology, in health, or they've had some kind of biology background just so they have a little bit of a basis of what is going on. The objectives for this lesson is students will be able to identify some of the effects that stress can have on the body. Students will be able to differentiate between the two types of stress, and students will be able to create things that they can do to relieve stress. So how this lesson will begin is it's going to start with the think, pair, share exercise. So the class would come in and I'd introduce the lesson, tell them we're going to start talking about stress, and then we move into the activity. So good afternoon, class. For today's lesson, we're going to be talking about stress. And I know you guys are high schoolers, some of you play sports, some of you guys are in drama, some of you guys are on a cheerleading team. There's a ton going on for you in high school, and you might be looking at colleges to go to. You're stressed. I'm stressed as a teacher. Every day, your parents are stressed. Every day, everyone in America deals with stress all the time. And stress, you guys may not know, actually can have an effect on health. So what I'd like you to do right now is, if you could take out a sheet of paper and think about, it doesn't have to be anything specific. You don't need to write a bunch of sentences down on anything. Doesn't need to follow any rubric. Just think about what some of the possible health effects stress can have on you. Just brainstorm it. And again, the reason I'm having the students write is so when they pair up in a group, they'll be prepared and they'll have something to say. Okay, now that you guys have had a little bit of time to write on what you think the benefits, or not the benefits, what you think the effects of stress has on the body, I'd like you guys to get into small groups and talk about what you guys wrote about. So the reason I have them pair up into small groups is because it's a smaller setting. They might be with someone they know, they might be with someone they don't know, but it's not threatening and it gives them a chance to talk amongst each other and compare and contrast what they wrote about. Alright, now that you guys have had an opportunity to pair up into small groups, I'd like to hear from you. What did your groups talk about? Jordan, what did your group talk about?
Oh, we talked about how stress can make you tired and you just get crabby and it affects your mood.
Do you guys talk about any of the stresses that you might have in your group?
Schoolwork, basketball really causes stress. Working with jobs, not having enough time to get sleep.
Kiefer?
One thing that we talked about was maybe if you get into a confrontation with somebody and something really bugs you, it kind of gives you can't sleep at night and you're sleep deprived, and then you go into the next day with a lack of sleep, which is never good for you, and you're less functional and you're less efficient. So,
yeah. All right, very good, very good, very good. You guys did a good job of sharing out to the class. So now the next part of the lesson is I want you guys to watch this YouTube video that I have queued up here on our beautiful Samsung projection screen with my sweet, beautiful Samsung controller. We're going to watch this YouTube video on stress, and if you guys can pay attention, because I'm going to ask you what your reactions are to the video, post-video.
A new survey conducted by the American Psychological Association and the National Women's Health Resource Center found that 43% of American adults suffer adverse health effects from stress.
While stress can be a normal physical and psychological response to the demands and pressures of one's life, too much of it can be deleterious to one's health. When one is exposed to a stressful situation, the body responds by producing more of the hormones cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones cause changes in the body, such as increased heart and breathing rates, as well as increased overall sweating, and in particular, sweaty palms. An influx of these hormones may also result in stomach or gastrointestinal problems like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. Generally, these symptoms are the result of acute or short-term stress. Examples of acute stress include making a big presentation or responding to a traffic jam. Most of the time, though, acute stress symptoms, which are also known as the fight or flight response, abate when the stressor does. But sometimes, acute stressors happen too often so that the body does not have time to recover. And at other times, stress is caused by situations that last over a long period. This chronic stress may be due to issues like a difficult job or to disease. People suffering from chronic stress or from frequent acute stress often experience long-term effects that can be harmful to overall health. Physically, stress can weaken the body's immune system, making a person more likely to get sick. It can lead to heart problems like high blood pressure, abnormal heartbeat, and in more extreme cases, even heart attack or heart failure. Stress can make the symptoms of stomach problems like irritable bowel syndrome and peptic ulcer disease even worse. Being constantly stressed often leads to muscle tension in the neck, shoulders, and lower back, and it's been linked to reproductive issues including erectile dysfunction and lowered fertility. Stress can also exacerbate skin conditions like psoriasis, eczema, or acne. In fact, it's estimated that between 75 and 90% of all doctors' visits are due to stress-related ailments and complaints. But the long-term effects of stress are not just related to the physical body. Emotionally, stressed people are often depressed, moody, and irritable. They tend to find it difficult to focus on even simple tasks and may worry constantly about small things. Over time, stress can also lead to relationship conflicts and social withdrawal, as well as to drug and alcohol abuse. With all these documented negative effects, it makes sense to seek medical help if you struggle with constant stress.
Okay, now that we've watched that video, I'd like you guys to get back in the original group that you were with and talk about what your immediate reactions to the video were. So the reason that I have the class go back into their original group and talk about their immediate reactions is because I want to know what they took from the video right away. What were some immediate takeaways from the video? It could vary from group to group. There's no right answer. I just want them to be further critically thinking about what they just watched on the video. Otherwise, what was the point of showing the video? So, guys, now that you've had the opportunity to talk amongst your group, if you could please share out what you guys took away from that video that we just watched on stress. Were you surprised by anything? Did anything stand out to you? Was everything you already knew? What's up?
Okay, so I wasn't surprised at all because if you look at when a president enters his first term and then when he leaves office, he's physically aged a lot more, and presidents usually don't have a longer life expectancy because they go through extreme amounts of stress when they're in the office. So that's kind of an extreme example, but I think that's a clear indicator of how this is relevant.
So that, like the video said then, that would be not acute stress. It wouldn't be the short-term stress. That would be the chronic stress that he was talking about right there, right?
Yeah.
Anybody else, any other groups want to share out?
As a hardworking student and having a horrible boyfriend, the stress of that explains why I have body aches and stuff like that.
Okay. That can be one common high school problem. I know you guys you're in high school, you guys have relationships, that could be a stressor that you guys deal with on with regularity. So, now, if you guys can get back into those original groups, talk about some of the things that you guys do to deal with stress. Since, as the video said, 85 to 90% of doctor visits are possibly due to stress, at least a little bit. What are some of the things that you guys do to deal with stress? If you guys could talk amongst yourselves and then share back out with it again, please. Alright, now that you guys have had the opportunity to talk amongst yourself, how do you guys deal with stress? Let's hear some things, Jordan.
I rollerblade or do some form of exercise to relieve stress.
Jimmy?
I would say work out or do some sort of physical activity kind of clears my mind.
Okay. So now with the rest of class time, guys, I'd like you to write up a little bit of an exit card. You guys are going to have about 20 minutes to do this. You guys are going to have to cover a good amount of questions. If I was in a classroom right now, I'd have these questions written on the board, but I don't have a board obviously, so I have them in front of me. So the questions that you guys are going to write on, it's going to be, why is it important to find a healthy way to deal with stress? Differentiate, if you could, between acute and chronic stress. Have you guys ever noticed stress affecting you? If so, how did it affect you? What are some of the stressors in your life? When was the time that you were most stressed out? How do you deal with stress? And if you cannot think of anything, what are some ways that you could possibly deal with stress in the future? And finally, are there any new ways that you guys have to deal with stress if you already have dealt with it in a different way? So then the class would have the rest of the time to write on that exit card. Should be about a half page of paper or so, and they turn that in at the end of class, and that would be the wrap up of the lesson.